The Washington Commanders come back to Northwest Stadium for an important divisional game and a game that also had playoff implications. And unfortunately, folks, they lose to the Dallas Cowboys 34-26. Right now, I'm joined by Felix Trammell from Fox Sports Radio. My good friend, this is not what we were expecting.
I don't think anybody inside the stadium expected it, including most of the fans in blue and white and the media in blue and white. Nobody expected this. I mean, I don't even know how to begin to explain the performance we saw today.
I mean, in the press box, I think the anticipation is that they were going to come here and blow out the Cowboys. I mean, they were supposedly the better football team, and they were coming off two tough games against, Philadelphia Eagles, and the week before that, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both those teams had bye weeks to prepare for Washington. So you thought Washington having a mini bye week in itself, would come out more energized. They had the crowd in front of them, and it was the polar opposite. This was not a football team that I've recognized under Dan Quinn.
At all. I mean, first, the environment out here was flat, and then the team was flat. Like, they weren't aggressive, and I think we had fallen victim to the fact that they blew out bad teams. They blew out Carolina. They blew out the Browns. Like, they dominated these teams, and so the expectation was they were going to dominate. I always kind of felt like the Cowboys would hang around because it's a divisional team. They still have good talent, and then Washington would kind of overrun them, but that never took place. It was just like, come on, guys, when's the switch going to flip? When's the switch going to flip? And it never flipped.
Yeah, I mean, this was a 3-3 football game at halftime. And if you would have told me that, you see 34-26, that we would have these offensive fireworks, not even really in the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, I would have told you you're crazy. We just came from a press conference with Dan Quinn, and you can tell he's a little subdued a little bit. He likes the fact that his team stays in the fight, and we thought we were going to see yet another miraculous comeback when Terry McLaurin took that thing down.
I mean, I think there's some good in that this team doesn't give up and they find ways. That's weird ways, but they're in games. So I think that's a positive takeaway you can take from it, that they somehow find a way to be in a game at the end. And I think that's mostly what you can ask in the NFL. But a game like this, they've got to win. I mean, I know this is year one of a rebuild, and you think they might be ahead of schedule. That might be true. But a team that's, you said it, actively tanking. Like, they were not trying to win this game. No. You have to win this game. It doesn't matter the division, the circumstances outside of that. If they're trying not to win and you are trying to win, you need to win that game.
And you're doing this with a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush, who made every throw imaginable today against this Washington defense. And I think the thing that's standing out is this Commanders team has to win all three phases in order to be what we saw earlier in the year. And over the last month, they haven't done that. It seems like special teams plays well, defense doesn't. Defense plays well, offense doesn't. Today was a microcosm of that.
Absolutely. And, you're just trying to figure out what's going on. Like, I think they rushed Cyber back. I think you can see that after the fact. He was off kilter.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have kicked the Turpin.
Never. Never.
That's one of the two weapons they have.
Yeah.
Kick it out of bounds. Let them get the ball at the 40. They're only going to run the ball anyway.
Yeah.
I think that lent itself to the downfall because the defense was great. I mean, the defense was there. Like, come on, offense, do something. Come on, offense, do something. Eventually, they're going to break. And it's sad that Cooper Rush had one of the better quarterback games against this defense. Like, Jalen Hurts didn't have this good of a passing game.
No.
Russell Wilson didn't have this good of a passing game. But Cooper Rush only had like 5 incompletions. That's kind of weird, but you can see why the Cowboys go him, because he's steady, he does the right thing, and he follows the game plan. But to be who they need to be, everybody's got to complement each other. And it can't just be Jaden Daniels, and it can't just be the defense. Everyone's going to have to chip in. And today, all three phases failed at a certain time that contributed to the loss.
Yeah, and and our final thing before we close out, I'm talking with Felix Trammell from Fox Sports Radio. I'm surprised because this was a game, you penciled on the schedule because it's Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, the defensive coordinator, came from Dallas. They brought in Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler Jr., Tyler Biadasz, on the offensive line. So you thought there would be a little bit of extra juice for this football game, and the fact that the Cowboys are down, you would think that this would be the game where you'd want to step on, the blue and silver over there, and they just didn't do it. So going forward, you have the Tennessee Titans coming in this building again. The fans are going to be on edge because now they're starting to wonder, is this a mirage, what they've seen early?
Right.
if you're Washington, you absolutely are in a must-win situation now.
Yeah, I think the switch is flipped. You got to win that game, and Titans beat the Texans today.
Surprisingly,
I mean, that's another surprise. They're going to be strong, and they have nothing to lose. And I think those are the hardest teams to play, the ones that have nothing to lose. But to be a good team in this league, you have to beat those type teams. So Washington has to fix it, flush it, whatever it's got to be to get that groove back. And I think it starts with the offense being more up tempo. Anytime the offense goes tempo, good things happen. So I think the tempo's got to increase. You're going to have to figure out that secondary rotation. It's kind of weird. And you got to figure out the kicker, because the kicker mattered today. That was 5 points left out there, and that whole game changes if those extra points and those field goals are made.
All right, folks, it was a tough one here at Northwest Stadium. This was one we did not expect. The Commanders now are sitting at 7-5 and going backwards, 3 straight losses. They're going to have to get it together, as Felix just said, next week right here in the same stadium against the Tennessee Titans. We'll have more throughout the week. You can check me out on my podcast, The Lake Lewis Jr. Show. I'll have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. And then, Felix, where can everyone find you?
You can find me 1340 a.m., foxsports.com. Read my content. Also, my podcast will be on there as well.
All right, folks, we'll be back next week, hopefully with a win here from Northwest Stadium. I'm Lake Lewis, Felix Trammell.